significantly correlated. These three were not. This one, something to do with on the internet. There's a lot of music sites that talk about, you know, the best album of all time, but the #1 for the subject was favorite album of all time. So it's hard to say why that is. But again, the trend is very strong that most of those have very, very strong correlations. So to wrap up my talk today, I found that family size, rank, and corpus was strongly related to that and all survey responses. Also that the n-gram frequency rank correlations were reliable for most of the stimuli, and this was also true for both the 3 and 4 grams and the 5 grams in those two stimuli sets. And so finally, I'd like to say that the familiarity, I think, is affecting word choice. And that's n-gram familiarity in this unconstrained n-gram completion task, and that there is evidence that n-gram familiarity influences word choice. And that does support some idea, the idea that there's some type of mental representation for n-grams. Thank you very much. Oh, future directions. I'm going to try to look into why I did not show any correlation. I'm trying to see what happens when you get a little extra time. So, thank you very much.
Questions? Laurie?
Not exactly, but I do have one more slide. I thought someone might ask this, so I have a bonus slide about that. This is the same type of rank correlation, but instead of using the n-gram frequency, I used the word frequency alone, just the orthographic frequency of the word that was filled in. So I wanted to see if people were just picking their word based on just the frequency of the word. And if there was a difference between the frequency of the words that people filled in and the frequency of the n-grams that were made up by that completed word, right? And as you see here, when you change n-gram frequency for word frequency, most of the rank correlations go out the window. So I take this to mean that it's not just word frequency or word n-gram ratios or anything that's driving the word choice. It's actually the whole n-gram frequency that's really important. And that single word frequency is not at play. That's why I take it.
I think that maybe the ratio might give you some explanation for why there are some words that aren't fitting in. If you have a word that you only ever see in context, or is unusual everywhere else, but in this context, you're going to get, that's going to be the one that gives you the highest value, right? For your translational. I'm not saying that I think that what frequency is driving this, but I think that the ratio might give you an explanation for your other arguments.
Well, I might try looking into it. Arden?
Yeah, actually, maybe this is related to the previous question, but when you were saying about your sort of future ideas and concerning the word selection experiment, so that sort of reminds me of a paper by Roland Urbach from 2002, where basically their conclusion was that if people are just presented a context, that they create just the 5 words with the empty slot without preceding context, so they create a default context which they fill, and it might very well be actually that if you would be looking at the original context from which you have picked out the 5 grams, that there would be information that would be directing to the word that appears in the corpus. But since the participants are not exposed to this context, that they're just exposed to
Yeah, I see what you're saying. There's conditional, you know, each of those completions has conditional probability based on previous context. And so I'm going to think about that one. I'd like to include that in a future model, definitely, because I think that's important stuff.
This Roland Urbach from 2002 would be a...
I will look into that. I haven't read that. Thank you. Yes.
So you're using the Google one, whatever it is, Web 1, like a trillion websites.
Trillion pages, trillion words of the website.
Trillion words of the website. So those of us who've spent any time on the internet know that it's a very strange place. And I wonder how representative those trillion words are of the language representations of psychology, right? Like, they're probably, most of the words, or many of them are not written A, by natives who use English, or B, by people who are fully literate.
That's a good question, and
right,
the corpus linguists have looked into corpus quality, corpus variety, genre, all these things, register, and look at the web versus more controlled corpora. I'd like to get into that, but it's a very deep topic, and I'm just going to hold to think that the Google corpus is very interesting because it's so large and averages across so many types of authors and so many types of English that it washes out all those worries that we have about the web being a bad source of corpus data. I think it's a very good source of corpus data. There may be better ones. So I'm going to continue my research from here on in to try different corpora, more well-structured or more well-controlled managed corpora, and see if that changes my results. I don't think it will, but I'd like to see if I can get a difference based on corpus.
I think, like, what I'm saying is not that it's a bad corpus, but just that maybe because you're doing comparisons between the responses by psychology undergrads and everything that happens on the internet. So I'm wondering if maybe some of the
well, I mean, if you look at these,
like the correlations are pretty good, but I wonder if some of the outliers or some of the, like, you would get stronger correlations.
Some of them might be. So if those go away with a better corpus, I'd be very happy to know it's just the web and no one's, it's a blank day, it's a beautiful day, it's a sad day, maybe that's just because the web or web people are depressed. I don't know. Are people depressed on the internet? Maybe it's sad, it's sad days.
There's
we're out of time.
one more question. I'll let you choose it because we're like a minute.
Or?
Just out of curiosity, how did you choose your engrams?
Excuse me?
How did you choose the engrams?
Well, that's a tough stimuli choice is a tough one here. I did a lot of looking for commonly used engrams on the internet because I need a lot of stuff that's spoken on the internet. So it's a very strange academic engram, then it wouldn't really work. So I looked for some common ones, and I tried to find a nice unit or continuous distribution across the family sizes in the corpus. I wanted some that had, let's say, only 2 responses in the family size, all the way up to one that had 1,000. So that was my main goal, just to get a representative random sample of engrams that varied from very small family to very large family in both the letter and word close tasks. In the next revision of this experiment, I'd like to have more items and control the items a little bit differently. So I can have, for example, in today's earlier talk from Georgia, there's a transparency, on that dimension, from opaque to transparent. Maybe I should vary that and see how that affects things. So there are lots of things I could do, but for now I can work with a variety of family sizes. Good. Any other questions?
Sorry, yeah, we're going to keep you more or less on